gives lot of information about his personal achievements. But to top it all, it gives us a great information about one hydraulic project
Oh,
of ancient times.
that's great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, Saurashtra major region is arid. It,
Mhm.
it's not full of water.
Mhm.
So, water management, water conservation, creating artificial reservoir and making the water available for agriculture and for other purposes, this is something which is very, very crucial because of the geographical terrain that we are talking about. And this Kshatrapa Rudradaman, during his rule, a cyclone devastated a reservoir which was created during the time of Mauryas.
Okay. Okay.
During the time of Chandragupta Maurya, it was created. Ashoka continued with little repair works and extension work for that. And that continued right up to the time of Rudradaman, that is 2nd century AD. 150 AD approximately is the time that we know about his rule. And we know that minimum Ashoka's time is 3rd century BC. So almost about 500 years that reservoir was still functioning.
Mhm.
But a great cyclone that devastated it, and all the water that was conserved, that was in the reservoir, that flew off. There was no drop of water left.
Okay.
So Rudradaman decided to undertake a huge ambitious project of not only repairing it, but extending it
Mhm.
and making arrangements for storing more water. But his courtiers, they showed some resentment about it
Mhm.
because the expenditure estimated was very high, and the state treasury was not in a position to spend that much of amount only in repairs or enlargement of one reservoir.
Mhm.
So what did this king do? He ensured the courtiers that the state treasury will not be drained for making this reservoir. I will spend from my private wealth, my own wealth. In ancient times, the kings also used to have their private purse. A section of the treasury used to be for the king's personal expenditures. And Rudradaman declared that he will spend from that amount and do this work for the benefit of the people.
Okay. That
How
that
do you say about
yeah,
it?
it is quite great. But at the same time, I would like to ask you one thing. See, we have discussed about Samudragupta when where he was the younger child, and with the support of people, he got the throne, and though he was not eligible. But when we talk about Rudra Daman, how he was able to convince people and I mean to become a ruler, I mean stuff, because he is from outside of India. So how people supported this king?
This is a very good question. Though directly we cannot talk about Rudradaman because his family was already there. We know of two important Kshatriya families who ruled from this region. One was that of Kshaharatas and one was of Kardamakas. And Rudradaman is a member of Kardamaka lineage. So his predecessors were already the rulers of India. So there was not a challenge for Rudradaman to prove his legitimacy to be the ruler um, in a foreign land. He was already Indianized. Look at his name, Rudradaman. It means a kind of uh, tie or garland or some kind of a binding of Rudra.
Mhm.
And Rudra is one of the Vedic deities in India. Rudra as a god we know from the Vedas. So when he takes the name Rudradaman, or his family must have given him that name, they were already in the process of being Indianized. And further, this king, with his own effort, to answer your question little more uh, on the side of Rudradaman, he became expert in the classical language of India, that is Sanskrit. So this inscription that I was telling you, this inscription is at Junagadh, and it is on the same rock where we also get the Ashokan inscription. And subsequently, in the Gupta period, we are going to see that we get the information about Gupta ruler Skandagupta, who also has been recorded on the same rock. So at that Junagadh rock inscription, we get the details that Rudradaman was a great Sanskrit scholar. He could compose Sanskrit poetry.
Mhm.
So I think to extend this idea of how the foreigners were becoming a part of Indian culture, they were showing their complete respect towards the main cultural achievements of this land and equipping themselves with the skills required for that.
Okay. Okay. So at this point, I would also want to ask you. So, what is the impact of his period in India and further
Right.
years ahead?
Yeah. This is a wonderful question. Um, we had certain non-monarchical states in some parts of India. Most of India by then was under the monarchy. Different kings were ruling. But some pockets were there where a collective representative body, a central assembly, that was ruling the states. They were small states, and sometimes they have been called as republican states. Though scholars are not unanimous about this term, but the ancient term for that is Ganarajya. And the word Gana means a group of people. So they were non-monarchical, um, a community representative kind of government states. One of the most powerful of these Ganarajyas was that of Yaudheyas. And Rudradaman gave a strong blow to these Yaudheyas.
Okay.
And you can see that how gradually monarchy became the most powerful form of government. So Rudradaman's impact, if we can count in terms of the political achievements, then we can say that he strengthened the monarchical form of government in India and gave a strong blow to the non-monarchical states, and especially the Yaudheyas, who were known for uh, great bravery and very powerful kingdom of the Ganarajas. Second, we can talk about is that how the scholarship in Sanskrit language, the classical language of India, must have become a medium through which the foreigners could be Indianized. Third, that Rudradaman was concerned about his people, and agriculture must have been considered as one of the most important economic activities. And because of that, this king is making such a big provision, even going to the extent of spending from his own private possessions. So you can see that these are the ideals of the kings. Of course, we get details about it in the texts, but in practice also we can see that these rulers, they are following it. So Rudradaman becomes a link between that, like something which has been prescribed and something which has been in practice. One more thing, the Satavahanas on the southern side of India, like present Maharashtra region, the Kshatrapas and Satavahanas were constantly at war. Almost the tension was inevitable because of the coastal lands and the trade which was going on through the coasts, maritime trade. And India was gaining a lot of wealth through this maritime trade. But Rudradaman, even when the Satavahana king was captured in the war, he left him. He did not kill him. And he says that he did it because of the family relation.
Okay. Okay.
So we can see that these kinds of family relations means this was a matrimonial relation. Rudradaman's daughter was married to Gautamiputra Satakarni's son.
Mhm.
So we can see that in ancient India, this kind of diplomacy was also going on. that they were forming alliances, consolidating it through marital relations, and then probably a complete blow or a complete destruction of the enemy was not done. There were spaces of negotiations which were created, and matrimony becomes a part of it. So this also we can learn from Rudradaman's inscription and his own career.
Yeah, based on the discussion which we are having today, I feel that the profile and this particular king is important to Indian history. But why it is not there? His name, his period is not there in Indian, especially school textbook. So
I know.
so that is something which I really feel pained about it, because he has played a crucial role when we are talking about water irrigation system or maintaining the matrimonial and being a part of Indian culture, being a foreign lineage. So I think that is something which everybody should know, and I think this is a way to let people know about this great king of India. As usual, Bindaji,
Sure.
it is so lovely to talk to you today, and we will be discussing
Me
another
too.
king in our next
Yes.
episode. Till then, bye
Sure.
bye and take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Have a good day. Bye.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
Good morning, Neville.
Good morning, CK. Another bright and sunny day in London after a full moon, beautiful full moon. And yourself?
Yes, it is bright and sunny and hot. Today is day 15.
Day 15 of lockdown. And we're on that letter L today, but we're not going to talk about lockdown. We're going to talk about how to get out of lockdown, unlocking lockdown, because there's a great opportunity here. And we're going to look at the word leverage, which
Certainly.
not many people understand, really, mainly because they don't understand how they can leverage what they're doing. And we're talking on a perfect platform, the Top Brass platform, which in itself is opportunity to leverage. But there are elements of leveraging, using your organization and the levers that are out there. And obviously, you need to be a good leader. So leadership comes into it. And we were talking, you and I were talking about the elements of leadership a little while ago. And one of the biggest elements of leadership is you need to know what's going on. You need to be that Sherlock Holmes, be the investigator, find out exactly what's going on. And I think you were saying that you've got kids that were doing that very thing, during lockdown. Isn't that right?
Yes, Neville. Actually, kids have tried everything because they are in total lockdown. They have tried to play carom. They've tried to play chess. They've tried to play anything that is all the games available. The only thing is that they are not allowed to go out. And kids want to run. They want to go to park. They want to play cricket. They want to play whatever team games. So since the kids are stuck, and yesterday I was surprised, as you can see in this picture, they started their binoculars and they started observing things from our penthouse.
But that's brilliant, because they're doing what we would say is the very first form of leadership. They're becoming aware of what's going on, and we call that being an investigator. What do I see? Why am I seeing that? What's happening over there? And that is a fundamental part of leverage. Because if you don't know what's currently happening, you're not going to be able to leverage what you're doing into what's happening, if that makes sense. So the classic is utilizing LinkedIn platforms, Facebook platforms. Again, these are digital platforms, and they're really the only place at the moment, apart from picking up the phone and calling people, that you can really start to leverage your business and get your team to leverage it as well, which allows you to have communication with other people, so you can collaborate through leveraging what you do, what they do, make that introduction. So leverage is one of these words that people really have never really understood, because they're so deep involved in what they're currently doing. But just take a step back. Be that investigator. Like your kids yesterday. Put the binoculars on. Have a good look what's going on out there. And it's the first element of being a good leader. You might call it being aware in its simple form. But how aware are we? Do we really know what's happening in our organization, in our business? How people are thinking when we communicate with them? Are we clear with our communication? So all of these things get wrapped up. But if we're into our leverage mode, we need to investigate what's happening and really find out the nuts and bolts of not just what makes the business work, but what makes me work, and more importantly, what makes our customers work. Because in the past we've talked about from contact to contract is one letter, R, relationships. And it comes back to the first thing. What relationships have I got? How can I leverage those relationships? Are they important to me? Now's the time to make all those actions. And you've got hundreds of people that you've been relating to and calling over the last few weeks while you've been on lockdown. And you've been leveraging those conversations, I'm sure. You know, any one in particular that comes out, what problems they're facing or what issues that they're looking at?
Yes, Neville. In fact, let me summarize my discussions with a lot of people. See, there was a time where, we all thought, you, me, and my colleagues, that any sales or any business cannot be generated without the person getting on the street, getting into the car, and going physically have a face-to-face meeting with a client. In fact, there are companies like Levers and some of these large companies. They have invested heavily in developing van salesmen. That means the sales guys used to live in van and then do business out of van. For the last 100 years, I think what we are seeing is going to rewrite the whole concept. And from B2B business, I think the new model will evolve, that is consumer to consumer. And most of the people are having difficulty understanding this thing which is visible right on our face. And a lot of leaders are saying, hey, the B2B is going out of the window, and the business model which will evolve now will be consumer to consumer. And I think that is a summary of what, to answer your question, that is the summary that I got from my experience.
Well, it's an interesting concept because the bottom line is you're a consumer. I'm a consumer. We happen to be business owners. So if we can put ourselves in the position of us as a consumer, we will make not just the C2C work and the B2C work, we will really make the B2B work. So whether or not new business models come out of this is perhaps a little too early to understand. I mean, I've heard people have said this year, we're going to lose 2 quarters. So half the year will disappear. but they're positioning themselves to come back, to leverage where they currently are and come back and get triple the sales, because not just the competition may have disappeared for whatever reason, but the competition may not have got up to speed as fast as they have. So they're really taking advantage of the digital arena. And we've only got to look at history here. A lot of people thought Amazon were mad when they started to go into the book world. Because Amazon literally was, oh, you bought this book, would you like to buy this other one? And then all of a sudden, they become the biggest retailer in the world from absolutely nowhere. You know, I mean, it took a number of years, obviously, but they took the leap. They took that leap early. They saw an opportunity in the marketplace and they took the leap. And now, if you look at what Amazon is, they've completely leveraged their model. What they've got is they've got lots of people that know Amazon. And we all know the picture of Amazon, you know, the A to Z, that little arrow that goes underneath. And in the back of our mind, we know from A to Z, I can get anything. If it's in the alphabet, they will supply me and they'll deliver anywhere. And as we now know, drone delivery is either there or will be a big feature in the next 2 to 3 years. And of course, that'll be digital too, because they'll be able to deliver it to your penthouse. They won't have to climb the stairs. They won't have to ring the bell and say, come down and get it, you know, as they're currently doing here now, you know, they're delivering to the curbside. So again, just think of where your business is currently, but you've really got to, it's self-reflection. Have a good look at where you are, what you can do, and then leverage out of it. And what you will find is that a lot of your leverage opportunities will come from you being a good leader and being able to collaborate more with other people. And we know how to collaborate. It's just that we haven't really worked out what we're doing. So that's part of thinking and introspection of what you're currently doing in a business. But like anything else, day 15, and we've got a few more days to go. But I believe your cabinet's meeting today, so your lockdown may well extend. So, and could even get worse. So, tighter restrictions. But again, you're not in control of that. Someone else is going to make those decisions. So it needs to be in the mix, you know, in your planning, but come out the other side much, much stronger. And you can if you really look.
So, Neville, in fact, we are totally geared up for few days ahead or few months ahead, or, you know, counting our quarters. And we have built this platform called Top Brass, which allows consumer to consumer interactions. So, and it is available. I mean, I welcome people to collaborate with you and me to reach out to the client, find new ways to address the clients and customers, or even existing clients. So our platform can be leveraged. And while everybody is on lockdown, because we don't know how long the lockdown will continue, and even after the lockdown is lifted in a phased manner, it is not going to be walk in the park.
No.
So I think we are locked in for some more time. So leverage.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And as you say, over time, I mean, it may be, and we've heard from Paris today, that actually it's going to get very tight. It's going to get tighter. So they're narrowing their opportunities currently. There will be an unlocking period. So the dogs will be let out. The point is, they're not going to be let out, as you say, straight into the park. There'll be a phased unlocking. So we need to position ourselves for all elements of that unlocking process. So we do have time now, but make the most of time. Don't say, I'll do it tomorrow. Because as you know, that's behavioural waste. That's knowing what you really need to achieve today to do it tomorrow. Because guess what? When you wake up in the morning and the sun's shining, you say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Because your habit is now forming. And you do not want to form that habit of, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow.
And tomorrow never.
That's not well, exactly. The words and the phrases are out there. Tomorrow never comes. And so do what you can today as though tomorrow will never come. And then you know you can feel confident and accomplished of what you've done today. That's not to say you won't have a huge list of things to do. You know, I've got loads of lists that I have to get on with. But achieve them. Leverage what you're doing. That's the message today. Get an opportunity. The digital arena is definitely here. We're evidence of it, being several thousand miles away, still talking to each other. So now the message for you today is use the platform, this platform, any other platform, but understand your business needs, what it's capable of doing, what your customers want, and get out there and keep telling them, this is what you do, this is how you do it. Keep the message flowing.
Thank you.
Because day 16 is coming.
Absolutely. I hope people are listening to you. You are such a great voice from our industry. You are literally a leader and corporate mentor. I hope people listen to you and they get prepared for days to come.
Well, I hope so. And like anything else, give us your feedback. We're here. These sessions are here to help you. You know, and you'll struggle. We all struggle, but you'll struggle even more if you don't ask. So send us what problems you're having. Send us the difficulties perhaps that you're facing. There's always an answer. We may not have the answer, but we probably know someone that has. So good luck. Day 16 tomorrow. You're halfway through your day. I'm sort of a bit through my day. So be safe, stay home, and enjoy it. It will never be like this again.
You too, Neville, and we'll again speak tomorrow.
Cheers, CK.
Bye-bye.
Good morning, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live, and I'm Chandrakant. There has been a new missile system tested by China, and that has created a huge buzz in the global strategist's mind because they don't know what to do now. And if you look at the missile system, we have very sketchy information available, but this is supposed to be called the hypersonic missile, which is 5 times the speed of sound. Which is 5 Mach, or it could be higher than 5 Mach. So the missiles which are which are hypersonic basically flies 5 times the speed of sound minimum, and it could be 8 times, it could be 10 times, sometimes it could be 12 times. So these are all hypersonic. Below hypersonic speed, which is below 5 Mach, up to the speed of sound, it's called supersonic. And this is a picture which is available, very bad picture, but I think this is what the media in the US have posted. They have got the picture of this new missile system, which is sort of hypersonic. Even though this missile went to the space and then strike back, and it was off by 20 kilometers its target. But if you put a thermonuclear device, 20 kilometers, 1 degree here and there won't matter. So this is created a big headache for the global strategic thinkers and strategy community, because now they have to think of new balance of power, because the whole thing is now getting into a cold war, and the cold war is not like a real war. It is basically balancing out each other's power capabilities, and you need to find out if the one block has one capability, what is the break for that capability. And this really started in the 40s, really 50s, where there was a cold war between US and Russia, eventually between Warsaw and NATO alliances. And one of the balance which was created was using the ICBM. Now, it is wrong to say that this is the first time that the Chinese have tested hypersonic. Hypersonic has been around uh, for last many decades actually, and ICBM, as you see, is one of the examples here, which is intercontinental ballistic missile, a very large rocket which goes to the space very high up into the lower Earth orbit, and then strike the target on its entry. When it enters the Earth atmosphere, it is actually at hypersonic speeds. So this is not a new concept where you have a hypersonic missile system. It has been around, and there are countermeasures also in place, developed by Russia as well as USA, and they are keeping track of activities of both countries for last so many years, and different blocks are monitoring what is going on, and that is what the balance of power. With this new test, the balance of power is a little bit shaken. I will explain to you much more in detail. But as I said, the high-speed missile systems are not new. India has its own missile system called BrahMos, which is jointly developed by Russia. So BrahMos stands for Brahmaputra and Moscow River, named after the rivers, great rivers in respective countries. And these are all supersonic missiles. That means they travel at the speed of 4 times. And BrahMos especially is a short-range missile, which is it has a range of 300 to 500 kilometers. So when it is flying at supersonic speed, which is 4 times the speed of sound, the reaction time for activating your countermeasures is negligible. That is why BrahMos type of missiles are very, very deadly, because it will reach target in less than a minute or minute and a half. So you can actually configure the target and fire it, and it will travel at the very, very high speed. Not hyper speeds, but still very high, because it's a short range. And India is also developing its own BrahMos 2, which is a hypersonic, which is going to fly at 8 times the speed of sound, or up to 10 times. This is going to be really comparative missile system what China has developed, but it is not out yet. It's under testing right now. So this balance of power thing, I think we need to discuss a little bit more in detail, and I'll tell you exactly what is the difference between these missile system. Now, if you look at the intercontinental ballistic missiles, and since there is so much of deterrence already built up across the world, all developed countries have developed it, and they have put the countermeasures already in place to counter ICBM threat. And moment these missiles are fired, the computer on the other side will be able to plot its trajectory. So what I'm trying to show here is in the red line, where if enemy nation fires a ballistic missile on you, you will immediately know that a ballistic missile has been fired, and your computer will be able to give you a trajectory. The trajectory will be very predictable, and you know that what is the target at the time of firing of that missile. And your countermeasures will be able to fly within less than a minute, and it will intercept this missile in space itself. It will not allow it to come near your area. So when it comes to ICBM, even though it's hypersonic, it depends, the success of your countermeasure depends on how quickly you identify the threat and eliminate it while it is still in the space. So this is how the countermeasure works, and that is why there is a lot of countermeasures across Russia, across United States. Some are in China, some are in India, some and many are in UK as well. So the countermeasures are already in place, and it is very easy to detect ballistic missiles, even though those missiles are always been hypersonic. The second category is a cruise missile, which I already told you by giving example of BrahMos. Uh, and there are many cruise missiles America has, and these are short range, very difficult to pinpoint. And especially with the latest technology, cruise missiles can change their target in flight. So these are very deadly. However, we know that there are cruise missiles. We already know that there are ballistic missiles. The problem is happening because the China has come out with a third type of missile, which is also not new, but this is changing the balance of power. The third missile type of missile is shown by, if you see the green line, it flies like a ICBM, and then it stays in the lower Earth orbit till the time the next command is given. And when it gets the next command, it will keep gliding until the time it gets the next command. So it is very difficult to predict where it is going to hit. Unlike an ICBM, where you can predict the trajectory at the time of the launch, in case of the new hypersonic missile system, it is very difficult to know its trajectory, where it is going to strike. It will just go to the space, remain there, and then attain hypersonic speed to hit the target. So it can come very close to target, and the other side will not even know where it is going to strike, because it can change, and within like less than a minute it will strike the target from the time you start giving command to the missile system. And because of that, because of these features in the new missile system, the strategists, the power strategists, have a very tough time understanding the deterrence system. And because of this, now the world will start spending money in coming out with new deterrence systems which can track these kind of threats. There will be more money spent, because whatever deterrence you have built, measures, countermeasures, are not going to work against this new threat, because you will not be able to predict where this missile will hit. And the current countermeasures are built on predictability, because you can predict 10 minutes in advance, and 10 minutes is a very good time for you to initiate your countermeasures. This one will give you very less time. So 90% surprise element has been brought into this missile system. This is why this has become such a big pain for the global strategist. We will keep following this story. However, China has denied testing it, because that is what the large countries want to take this position. They have denied because they are saying that it is a routine testing of the vehicle system. And even though they had announced this particular type of missile system in 2019 itself, but at this time they want to remain in denial. We will keep following this story, and let me know, friends, what you think about what I have just said. If you have any opinion, just do write in, and I will respond to each one of you. And I will catch you in the next one.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies, and welcome to Top Brass Likeable Leaders. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very distinguished personality on the show. His name is Mukesh Narasimhan Murthy, and he joins us from Bangalore. So he has a long career of 2 decades. He is very well known in the startup fraternity. He has been a serial entrepreneur, so many of us knows who are part of the industry. But I think we will learn more about him when we bring him on in the discussion. So without further ado, let me present Mr. Mukesh Narasimhan Murthy.
Thank you, CK. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be part on your show.
It is a pleasure, Mukesh. In fact, I know you a little bit, and I would like to know more about you. And the viewers definitely would like to know more about you. And this is an interactive session, so viewers can also interact with you. So you had a very long career, Mukesh. You had, you worked with the corporate tier one companies, and then you have been a serial entrepreneur for almost like 2 decades. Would you like to tell us your story, how it all began, and what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
All right. I would like to start from saying that I'm a Bangalorean. I've been a Bangalorean all my life. And, in Bangalore, the IT environment started pretty early. In fact, it started blooming from Bangalore. So that is something that it is more of a childhood dream to be part of the technology front. So that's pretty much what made me and my aspirations to get into the technology aspect and the forefront. And I was working with IBM, Hewlett Packard, and these are the organizations that gave me the bigger insight to get into global technology solution delivery. So that's pretty much what takes me and brings me here.
So I think you have been a very modest person also, even though you have achieved too many things in life. But I think we will learn more about you. You have been in
Absolutely.
you have been in the industry for almost 2 decades, 2+ decades, and in last 2 decades we have seen so many transformation happening. Would you like to throw your opinion or tell us more how you handle these transformations?
See, the digital transformation absolutely is a wonderful thing that happens to each one of us on a day-to-day basis, I would say. It started off with Windows to start with, the early days of the technology. And that's what brought in a lot of people closer in terms of uh, assembling of computers, I would say. So that is something that people started with. And later it became small businesses, medium businesses, and large enterprises. And these are the different areas that helped us to look bigger and having a wider perspective of how technology can grow. And that's pretty much what got us to have developed technologies today under Savvy Global Tech. And we have go to market solutions. And that's pretty much why we are here to have this discussion.
Mukesh, I think before we talk about your current organization, which is Savvy Global Tech, we would like to know more about your transformation as a leader, because you've gone through various, different businesses in life so far. So, how your story as a leader transformed, we would like to learn from it and we'd like to know more about it.
Absolutely, CK. Uh, it started off with me being into training, which is a part of learning and development in IBM. So, starting to interact with peer engineers, recruiting them, and making them fit to market, training them for on different technologies. So, those are the different aspects that gave us an insight on how different functions in an enterprise organization work, and how to make individuals ready for those different levels that each one of them belong to, or they've been asked to fit into. So gives us a very wide perspective of what is the market need. And today it is very important that we will have to give what the market specifically want. So those are the areas where we need to really focus on to make sure we're able to fit the technology to what the market specifically asks.
All right, Mukesh.
So,
Sorry.
coming from there, it became larger to having more responsibilities on the shoulders, and I was part of a larger enterprise called as Swish Home Theater and Automation. So that pretty much gave a bigger perspective in terms of handling larger audiences or clients, I would rather say, to fulfill their requirements. So from there on, for 15 plus years, giving audio, video, and technology automation solutions, uh, I learned in the as the organization grew, and how to handle international clients, how to handle technology solutions, how to integrate them, how to forfeit for their requirement, and then thereon got into technology aspects of solutions on artificial intelligence and blockchain and augmented reality. So these are the areas which blew into the market in the last recent years. So that's pretty much what gave me a thought in bringing all of these technologies together under one umbrella to put together Savvy Global Tech.
So, since we are talking about these buzzwords of the industry, which is IoT, transformation, and machine learning, etc., and now you're talking about Savvy Global Tech, would you like to give us more information about, what your current organization is all about?
Our current organization is all about providing the trending technologies, is what we call. We have different verticals, and this pretty much brings in uh, my experience in the last 2 decades that I have collected to put it under one single umbrella to make sure that we are a one-stop technology solution uh, for our clients, so they don't have to really look into the market for different solutions and different people. So we are able to give them end-to-end solutions.
Fantastic, Mukesh. So now going back to your personal journey and your evolution as a leader, uh, I would be very, very interested in knowing some of your key achievements which you cherish. Every leader has certain achievements and certain things they hoist their flag, and they get the feeling of pride. So would you like to share some of your achievements with us so that we can get inspired by those deeds of yours?
Absolutely. In fact, we started off with designing solutions on artificial intelligence, both in two different areas. One in technology perspective for industries, and the second one in the healthcare. And these are the two different aspects of the areas that the market is focusing on, especially considering the pandemic situation. We're glad to mention about one of the technologies, which is called as Artix, which is a solution, in fact, based on artificial intelligence on medical healthcare solution for COVID. So this pretty much is an AI-based solution that our team has developed in making sure that we are able to take an X-ray of a patient, and through which we can detect through the lungs signatures uh, whether the individual patient has COVID or not. So these are some of the tech end solutions that we have developed, the one among them. And apart from which, we've also developed another artificial intelligence based solution for industries, and where people are working on a day-to-day basis, even, but the industries can't stop because those are factories, and people, there has to be a human interaction with the machines. So in these areas, having maintained social distance is quite important, and it is need to be forefront safety aspect to make sure that the individuals who are working there, putting their life in front of everything else, and making sure the production is on, and then the technology is uh, cherished there. So we have developed a solution where the cameras which are installed in those industries can detect what is the distance between two individuals uh, that needs to be maintained, and it tracks that information in terms of the distance, and it also detects whether the individual is uh, wearing a mask to make sure that he's safe in a environment that he's working in. And those are the kind of solutions that we have developed, and these are the go-to market solutions that we have ready.
So Mukesh, from the sound of it, it looks like very, really, really high tech, applications, and I think almost 100% of the industries, small, large, and medium, all of them require this kind of application. So I think with this, we wish you good luck, and we will cover the application sometime again in future. But for today, I will come back to your leadership qualities, and as the time is limited, we would like to know more about what could be your message to the budding entrepreneurs in order to become a great leader.
Good question, CK. This is one of the very frequently asked questions, I would say, and it is one of the most important questions. This would help a lot of entrepreneurs to have a steady and strong foundation. And what really builds that foundation is a few things that I would like to mention here. One, uh, having a leadership in today's world is one of the very key things. So, here, what I would mean by saying that is the personal connect with the technology that we are trying to build. The personal connect is completely missing out. So, the forefront thing that we would need is to make sure that we maintain the same kind of personal relationship with individuals to build the network. And the network actually is the foundation for building any organization or a company. So it is important that along with the right foundation, the right connects that we get into in the market, and the right networking, and the personal trust that we have with each individual, and build that networking into a larger avenue to make sure that we are able to reach out to global leaders. And once we are able to reach out to global leaders, that's where we are able to offer the technology solutions to make sure it is more cherishing for each one of them to apply it in their own areas. So the very simple thing here is the personal connect is what I would say, which is completely missing out in the digital world.
So I think your message is very loud and clear. What you're saying or asking entrepreneurs to do is basically lead from the front, build your network, get known in the market, and not depend on your juniors. So basically, you're trying to say that, hey, you have to do what you're doing and make sure that you become a role model for your company. So I think it's a great learning for all of us. Um, so my next question would be to take your inputs about the changes in the industry. Mukesh, in last 2 decades, we have seen so many changes, at least 3 to 4 times drastic changes we have seen in the industry. From your point of view, right now we are riding the wave of IoT and machine learning. Um, from your point of view, after 5 years or 3 years in future, where do you see our industry going and how it is changing?
The future of today's technology is going to be part of healthcare. We've already started to see that. The kind of change that healthcare has brought into in terms of technology to people, it's giving out uh, heat and cold waves to everybody. And it's pretty much difficult for anybody to absorb such a change. And that is the reason why even under the current scare or the pandemic situation, that we all are having a tough time to address the constant change that has been happening to us on a day-to-day basis. So, in the coming years, as you rightly said, there is going to be a tremendous change in terms of there could be more scare to the market, and there could also be more solutions that can come to curb this different challenges that we would probably face. And technology is one thing that is going to help all of this to be taken care of. People are automating solutions. So these are some of the challenges that we will be facing in the near future, but we need to make sure that with the right technology and the right solution, we should be able to handle it very well.
It's very heartening to learn that you're already thinking about developing new applications for the new age, and your organization is now building rapidly building applications which are for future, basically futuristic in nature.
Right.
However, the investor community also play a major role in whatever is going to come out in next decade or next 5 years. What is your key message to the investor community? Because I think that has become a holy grail of all IT entrepreneurs, to find the right investors who can live with them for at least 5 years or more. So do you have any opinion on this?
See, I have a completely different opinion in terms of investors. See, investors, there are two ways of how investors come into organizations, and they either grow or they fail. So these are the two different ends that we see. There are very few organizations sustaining today, even after there has been great investments from investors. So I'm not against them, but I'm only trying to understand how this investment could be a more sustainable one than looking at even after good investments coming into organizations. Uh, we need to understand why they're failing. So my point of view is only to take it to in the positive direction and make sure that it becomes a more sustainable investment and growth for any organization for that matter. So that makes it more easy for more and more investors to come in and invest in new startup organizations.
So I think you also say, or rather concur when I say that investor community plays a major role, because if the healthcare has to uh, develop more high-tech applications need to be deployed in the healthcare segment, then obviously investor community has to understand that future roadmap and back the IT technologists like yourself and your colleagues in the industry. Um, Mukesh, I think we had a wonderful conversation today. However, we had limited time. It is not sufficient to understand your, the entire leadership journey. But I think we will find another opportunity to discuss with you. It was a pleasure knowing you and also bringing some of these facts in front of our viewers.
Thank you, CK. It was wonderful talking with you and being a part of your show.
Have a nice day, Mukesh, and catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, AK. Have a wonderful day.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
Good morning, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. Today, we are in presence of very eminent personality, Mr. Satya Madala, the CEO of Single Point Solution, which is a new gen organization focused on EV charge solution. Satya, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Chandra. Thanks for the introduction.
Right. So, Satya, we are in day 7 of the lockdown. The entire India is under lockdown, but I see you are suited booted, just like me. I'm also suited booted. We are working. I'm sure you're also working. You must have called your colleagues and your customers. What do you think, going on here? Would you like to share some experience?
Yes, Chandra. On a day one itself, like we took a drastic steps, segregating the employees. Just we segregated the employees in two ways: essential and non-essential employees, and just we gave an opportunity to them, to work from the work from home. To avoid this coronavirus to spread all over the office or something else. And at the same time, like we are already gave a orientation to employees how to behave and how to behave with the clients, how to behave with the neighbors, and how to manage a work from home, and how to take care of their health and their family's health. All these measures we took, and so far it's going. It's already seventh day. Tomorrow it's going to be eighth and ninth. So the business is a little affected because of this, but still we are trying to manage as if we are working as in office. So every day just we are coordinating with the just we are starting our day at 9:30, and we are coordinating with the employees and customers, and we are transparently explaining the situations to the customers, and we are assuring them their future support and everything.
Very nice, Satya. So you have worked out a routine, and today you are joining us from Hyderabad. So how Hyderabad is treating you during this lockdown? Are there any challenges, or your society, your community has created some processes to handle this lockdown situation?
Yes, actually, Telangana government they took a good steps to control the people. Actually, so say for example, when it comes to our community, we are staying in a gated community. Actually, they took up major steps not to come out. Everybody should stay back into in their flats, not to come out, and they are providing all sorts of facilities, and they are providing vegetables and fruits and some of the food and everything actually inside the community itself. So that is a good step taken by the government as well as the community people here in Hyderabad. At the same time, I think everywhere it is same. I think everybody is taking necessary steps to avoid contacting other people, and they are not allowing neighbors to gather one place, even not even actually two to three people also. Just they are giving a tokens to go out to take some provisions. That too, just they are issuing only one token for each family. So it's controlled very well. Actually, surprisingly, till yesterday, I thought, like, it's my view. Actually, I thought everything will be closed by April 7th and we can start our work by 7th. But unfortunately, we heard a few cases are popped up in Hyderabad again. Maybe it may go for another little longer, but still, actually, with good steps, so they could able to government could able to control the situation. That's what I can just I assumed, and actually I predicted. So things will stabilize in a short while.
Yes, I think these things will stabilize. I think some of us, people like you and me, and some of my other industry colleagues, they are actually coming out with some routines and moving to the virtual world because the business must go on. So, great that your community and yourself, you have also stepped up and you're using the virtual world to do business. I'm sure you must be facing some challenges because you mentioned that the the business is slightly low. So in fact, that's the same challenge I'm facing, that the customers are a bit slow on adapting the virtual world. I'm sure you must be facing the same thing.
Yes, yes, it is true. But there was a few uh, clients wherein actually uh, we are trying to educate the client how to use the technology. Basically, some of the clients where we are operating is from real estate and healthcare sector, but they know how to use the technology, but not in a IT specs, like they don't know how to manage some of the cloud systems uh, uh, remotely. So we are educating them to utilize this period to get to know what the technology, how they can use the technology, and most of the people, they're trying to adopt it. They're trying to, they're more just encouraging us to give a good suggestions. At the same time, they are very much keen to adopt the technologies to utilize in their day-to-day activities in this time, in this period. So everybody is working from their home. I know it is when it comes to healthcare, even few of the doctors, they are going out, and remaining other people, non technical people, they are working from home. So when we are dealing with the technical people in a healthcare sector, we are educating them how to utilize the cloud services. So that's what clients are doing. So just I explained only about one sector, but when we are working with the different sectors like automobile and like real estate, it is a little challenge for us to educate them. But I hope actually even they are also trying to adopt these technologies and utilizing it. So I'm facing a little challenge, but we can overcome by giving some education on the technology, and we are giving some sort of support, and we are giving some sort of assurance that actually about technology, so that people can adopt it easily, and we are giving some small tips to the clients, not to come out from the from their place, and they can utilize the technology. So that's what we are doing right now. So it's a more little challenge, but still, so it's an unforeseen situation for a employer as well as for a client also, for a company and client also, for both of them. It's a unforeseen activity. So it's a new, and at the same time, uh, so this situation is not predicted earlier, or otherwise we would have taken a little some sort of steps. So but yeah, so people are trying to accept it as as the situation is going on. So anybody, it should happen.
Right, Satya, it is seventh day. I think we've got few more days in lockdown. So I'm sure
Yep.
there will be another opportunity to talk to you after a few more days to check on how situations are. It was always pleasure to talking to you, Satya, and I think we'll
Thank you.
find another opportunity very
Thanks
soon to take your inputs.
thanks for the opportunity giving to me in this time. But still actually, we are trying to do our best, and we hope the things will stabilize in a short while.
Be safe, stay at home, and we'll catch up soon, Satya.
You too. I'm also giving up all other companies and clients be safe and be at your home, and maximum try to manage your works by uh, by using some technology. So don't come out, and we try to eradicate this virus as soon as possible.
Certainly. Bye for today, Satya.
Yes,
Bye bye.
thank you very much, Chandra. Bye.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. I am Kanchan Verma and today we are taking you to a wonderful city. And to discuss this, we have a special guest on this show. So stick around to this episode till the end. You will get more information and you will enjoy this show. Welcome back friends, and today we have Mr. Sitesh Srivastava, who is an IT professional, is closely related to radio broadcasting, and today he will be taking to a wonderful city yet again. So without wasting any further moment, I would like to welcome him. Welcome to the show, Sitesh. How are you doing today?
या कंचन, हमारा नाम भी सूरबा भोपाली है वही नहीं है?
Oh my
You must have
God.
guessed it.
Oh my God. So we are going to Bhopal. Oh, lovely. A city of lakes, man-made and natural lakes, right? I guessed it right.
Yes, Kanchan. How are you?
I'm fine. So let's know more about this wonderful city, which is 16th largest city of India.
Oh, great. That's great. Yeah, I have some very fond memories of Bhopal and I want to go back to the city again and again, Kanchan. This is very interesting, Kanchan. And I sometimes even are impressed. I'm impressed to know that this is also called Begum's Bhopal because it was the princely state between 1819 and 1926. It was ruled by 4 Begums, and that was such an interesting thing during the British suzerainty in those days. Four Begums: Qudsiya Begum, Shah Jahan Begum, Kai Khusru Begum, and Sikandar Begum. And it is another interesting part about Bhopal is that in 1947, after independence, I think Mr. Nawab Hamidullah, he actually decided to remain as a separate unit, Kanchan, just like some other princely states. We also know about this happened in Kashmir. And during that time, agitations started and Indian government had to intervene. Sardar Patel's home ministry had to intervene. And only in 1949, 30th April, Bhopal state was accepted under Union Government of India. Very colorful history, though it pales in comparison to other more popular histories around the independence of what we know about Kashmir, Lucknow, and Hyderabad. But Bhopal state is an amazing place. Bhopal state, now it is the capital of Madhya Pradesh, the heart of India. And because of the rules of the Begums, the city has some beautiful waterworks, railway station, postal system, and the municipality which was instituted in 1907. Have you been to Bhopal, Kanchan?
Somehow I missed this city because I went till Indore, but somehow I was not able to go to Bhopal. But that is again in the wish list, and time and again every week you come and tell us about the wonderful cities of the world, and in that process I always, while talking to you, think that now it is over, too much of social distancing, I must plan a visit to all these cities which we are talking about. Yes, so what we are talking about Bhopal, and what are the places we can or I can visit?
Well, Bhopal is a tourist's delight, not in terms of the popular tourist places that we know, but it is a tourist delight from the perspective of interesting lakes around the city. Upper Lake and the Lower Lake, and in between there is the Bhopal city. One is the old Bhopal city, one is a new Bhopal city. And the old Bhopal city has got all the old world charms of the bazaars, the galleys, the alleys, and the markets, and the smell of the biryanis, just like your Hyderabad, Kanchan. And the new city of Bhopal showcases about the modern development, some good malls, some great infrastructure, architectural wonders. So it's a place where you find the old world, medieval world, and the modern world all together at one place. It's also a city with a great Hindu-Muslim fraternity, brotherhood that is seen in the city. Because of Bhopal's connection with the Begums, as I said, and also the founder of the city, somebody called Dost Muhammad Khan, who was in the armies of Aurangzeb, and after the Aurangzeb's demise in 1707, he came towards the Bhopal region and took up a place over there, and then he helped the local Malwa queen and the Malwa kings, and finally he took up that area which today we know as the Bhopal city. So and also after the independence, it was the second largest state, Muslim-led princely state after Hyderabad, Kanchan. So a lot of great traditions are there, lot of connections are there. For me, it's also sometimes a great Bollywood connection. The in-laws of our mega star Amitabh Bachchan, and also I believe a connection with the Karishma Kapoor and Sharmila Tagore also is seen in this city. So this is an amazing city, great place, great food, good festival, Diwali and Eid, and it's a great place for peaceful life. As you can see in the background, it's a scene from one of the lakes of the city of Bhopal.
Well, I really tempted to go this city because you mentioned about the rich culture, and you also mentioned about great food offerings which is done at Bhopal. So, what are the places that in 1 week a person can cover once he plans to visit Bhopal?
So, Kanchan, Bhopal is very, very well connected within the India's railway network, within the air network. It has, Bhopal railway station, the Habibganj railway station, that is also the headquarters of the Western Central Railway, and Raja Bhoj International Airport. So, well connected, the heart of the city. Sometimes I feel that given the threats we have from our neighbors, why don't we have our one of the capital in Bhopal? It's safer from all the places that we know, and somehow I feel it is even safer than Delhi, especially from the military perspective. Great places from the Indo-Islamic architecture like Tajul Masjid, Taj Mahal Palace. They are like Indo-Islamic and the European styles. My favorite place, Kanchan, is Bharat Bhavan, which is a cultural headquarters, you can say, for Madhya Pradesh. It has got a cultural center, it has got auditorium, amphitheater, and lots of theater and the film festivals happen at Bharat Bhavan. A very, very favorite place. Then there is a one Vihar National Park is there, and one must also see some of the great temples in and around the city. And this city never fails to impress at how this city lived through the volatile periods of history during the Mughals, during the Deccan Wars, during the British Empire, and still the city feels very, very peaceful, very, very rooted in the traditions. I also remember one thing, one place called Rashtriya Manav Sangrahalaya. So it's a kind of a museum for the humans. Bhoj Talab, largest man-made lake in India. Only city to be ruled by the Begums of Bhopal for over 100 years. And it is the city of lakes for its natural and artificial lakes, Kanchan. So believe me, you will never get bored in Bhopal.
Definitely, when you mention about the rich culture, I'm sure I can really visualize the kind of people on day-to-day basis, how they react to the tourists and how the strong connections they have with each other in the city. And I can very well visualize because I've seen it in Lucknow. So that is something which I really appreciated. Now, yes, rasgulla is one of the favorite dish in Madhya Pradesh. So, what cuisine Bhopal offers to the visitors?
Well, Kanchan, to be frank with you, I'm very, very impressed by the Mughal cuisine that I have tasted in Bhopal. Equally, I am in awe of the vegetarian food, and Bhopal offers a mix of both. And sweets, special sweets which are found in the Madhya Pradesh can be found in Bhopal. It's a great place to have, the culinary part of the, Madhya Pradesh tribals. So tribal cuisine is also available. And therefore, Bhopal may not have been a culinary capital just like Hyderabad, but it has its own unique sweets, vegetarian and non-vegetarian food, and simple food. And one side it is very rich, especially on the biryani side. One side it is as what you call sattvic food that is available across the town, across the 80 square kilometer of the city. Vatka Caves is a great place, 35 kilometers outskirts of Bhopal. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And people also say, the legend says that Pandavas also chose it for their hiding in their exile period. And next time when I go to Bhopal, I will also try to visit Bandhavgarh National Park.
Well, definitely I'll have all wishes that we all plan to go Bhopal and enjoy its culture, its cuisine, and visit places at Bhopal. So what is that one place which you really appreciate so that we can share your experience with our audience?
Well, Kanchan, Bhopal is also a very modern city. It is home to one of the biggest industrial houses in the country, DB Corp, which is Dainik Bhaskar Group, also which is called Dainik Bhaskar Group. It's almost like a 17 billion rupees in business conglomerate. We all have a Manjul publishing house, which actually converted the Harry Potter series in Hindi. It's also a place for Bharat Heavy Electrical Limited plant. There is a Mandi Deep Industrial House, a suburb is there, which boasts something like Hindustan Electrographite, HEG, and Lupin laboratories. And the international airport is, what I understand, is connected via the Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, which is used during the Hajj timings. There are some great institutions in the city. Indian Institute of Forest Management, the only one, I am told, the only one institute of its kind is there. Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, AIIMS, Bhopal is there. Indian Institute of Information Technology is there. There's a hockey team in the city called Bhopal Badshahs. They play in the World Hockey Series, Kanchan. And mall, DB City Mall, one of the biggest there. One of the biggest marketplaces, New Market. So yes, so Kanchan, for your shopping, sari shopping, jewelry shopping, New Market, and for your high-end shopping, you must visit DB Mall. Important is also to know about the people of this city, Kanchan. A great repertory of these people: Shankar Dayal Sharma, our 9th president; Javed Akhtar, Najma Heptullah, Raghuram Rajan, 23rd RBI Governor, Paul Srivastava, Professor of Management at the Pennsylvania State University, and many more. House to Jaya Bhaduri, home to Jaya Bhaduri. So this place never leaves you unsurprised about itself, and that is the great place Bhopal is. I would like to also think that I think Daulatabad is not very far. The historical place Daulatabad, where one of the Nawabs before tried to move the capital, and we have a famous Hindi phrase "Dilli se Daulatabad tak." So yes, Kanchan, we must visit Bhopal.
How you
As I said in the beginning, Kanchan, once again, हमारा नाम भी सूरमा भोपाली है वही नहीं है.
okay? So that means you are quite impressed by the language and the way, the traditions of the Bhopal. So as usual, it is so wonderful to talk to you. Any last thoughts about Bhopal?
Kanchan, the city is a promising city, modern city, but a peaceful city, Bhopal.
So thanks for sharing your thoughts and your experience with this wonderful city, Bhopal. So we'll be meeting again with some other great city of the world. Till then, bye bye and you take care.
Shabba khair, Kanchan.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live, and I am Chandrakant. Today we have a very deep subject to discuss. It's about the mental health, especially among the youth. And to have this discussion, I'll be joined by a very senior, very eminent personality. But before we start our discussion, I have to tell you that we are live, and whichever corner of the world you're watching our program, you can actually use the chat function in your social media, in your social media, whichever social media through which you are watching. We will get your question displayed on the screen right there, right now, and we will take your name and respond to your question. So the guest today is Mr. Kevin Kotum. He is the best-selling author. He is the CEO of Go Nomading PT Limited, and he's joining us from Singapore. So without further ado, let's welcome him.
Hello, Chandra. It's really great to be here with you on this very
Special day in India.
Absolutely, Kevin. In fact, we had a big celebration, and I will tell you more about it after our show. But the topic for discussion for today is the mental health, especially among the youth. And because we are just coming out of the lockdown situation, or some of us are still in lockdown, there are some restrictions. What is the impact of that? So there are so many questions. It's a very vast subject. So what we should do to improve our mental health, reduce anxiety, things like that, feeling of procrastination and stuff like that. These are all related to mental health. So over to you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Andrea. It's really great to have a chat on this particular subject. It is, as you say, a very large subject matter, and I have to say that I've over this COVID period, I think we've all been affected by something in our mental health and their well-being. I think we would be remiss to not say that we haven't been, and to put up a very stern front and say, no, I haven't been affected. I want to say that it's affected me. I've had a lot of ups and downs, and I've had a lot of periods of where I've just been not necessarily depressed, but just not sure where I'm going, or unhappy, and looking at where is the future. And I don't think that that's anything different from a variety of people. But what we're hearing today, whether it be in Singapore, whether it be in Sweden, whether it be in Canada, whether it be in South Africa, or wherever it might be, there's a big focus on the youth today as to how are they dealing with all of this. And I think that there's a variety of aspects which are coming up, and that is, one, that they don't see a future, a very good future. When you talk about the climate change and you talk about all of these biodiversity and challenges in work, where will we get work? These are all pieces that are plaguing on the youth of today. And some are doing very well, and some, of course, are not doing very well. But I think that we need to address what this means. For example, in Sweden, a friend of mine just recently told me that a lot of youth, there's an increase in suicides. In Singapore, which doesn't talk about these types of things because it's kind of shameful to do so, but I think that it's coming out that the youth are also committing more suicide. They're going through downwards in a variety of their performances in education and also in school. And also there's a variety of just thoughts about, where am I going? I don't think anyone has one complete answer to this. And I think that's the thing, that we need to open it up. It needs to be an open discussion. And we need to look at not just where we are, but the expansiveness of what is society, what are our cultures. So often our cultures create this challenge as well, because we have some strictness of the way we are to act and the way we are to be. And these are juxtaposition, and there's a paradox between that and sometimes where is the world going when we see it. I mean, we see the world, there's a challenge, not only from the climate change, biodiversity, new ways of working, all sorts of things, but we need to find little micro steps to help us through this mental state. So there's a book which I think is actually very interesting, and it's called Thrive, My Time to Thrive. And I think it's really helpful not only for youth, but I think it's also very helpful for everyone. And it really talks about, we've got to get a grip on ourselves and the way we work, the way we act, the way we look at our lives in general, the way we do socialization, the way we do all of these things. And so it's by Arianna Huffington. And I have just started to read it, and I think it's really valuable. There's a lot of great research. At the same time, it's about creating micro steps to help us out of this mental dilemma that we might be having around any sort of subject in our lives. So this is where I call, we need to go nomadic. We need to go into deep curiosity into who we are, and find out what is our deeper purpose and what does that mean. And I think that is a really one place to start. I think there's another place to start is, if we think about it, is our technology that we're using. We're overusing and over abusing the technology. Our phones are constantly with us. See, my phone is right next to me. And that's not probably where it should be, especially when we go to sleep. So let us talk about some of the ways that we can help ourselves. So one of the things that they talk about, and which is extremely important, is sleep. Chandra, you know that you need to have sleep. The sleep is the re-energizer of us. It's not taking all the medications. It's not taking all the extra caffeine. It's the natural application of sleep, which is so vital for our mental health, our performances, therefore, which plays out from that. But getting 7 to 8 hours, or if you cannot do that, then to take naps during the day, some sort of cat naps. I remember my mother would always take cat naps. She was amazing. She would sit down, have a snooze, and drop off, and then she'd be back and she'd be up and running. And it was like this automatic thing for her. And then also she trained herself as well. Right after dinner, she would just put her head down and she would fall asleep and she would be up and she'd be able to start working away again. But sleep is extremely important as an energizer. It also revitalizes your systems inside, and it helps you in your performance ultimately, because now your brain is thinking better. This whole point, of us working like late hours, and COVID has had these no boundaries and people working very long hours, and doesn't help us. This badge of honor, I worked 14 hours today and I'm going to do it every day. This is not a badge of honor anymore. It was in one time perhaps, but today I've never thought of it as being a badge of honor. I just think it's been ridiculous because of what it does to you. And what do organizations do? They talk about performance indicators, performance of the individuals. They do a performance review. Well, if you don't sleep, your performance is down. Your cognitive thinking is down. It is not as peaked as it could be. So the other thing is also one of the other pieces about helping this sort of mental awareness is also understanding yourself, understanding what is putting these challenges into my body. What is affecting me? Is it somebody on the outside? Is it the person what's saying something? Is it I'm reading too much technology? Am I listening to the news too much? What is it? I don't know about you, Chandra, but I at times get over abundance of not only emails, but so much into looking at the different social platforms that I get crazy because it's too much. And I have to have a separation of the noise. So let me talk about the noise. The noise that happens can help, understanding a noise can help our mental health. We need to reduce the noise. Noise comes from inside of our head and outside of our head. It comes from within our body and it comes out. And so this noise comes in different factors. It comes in noises like, people talking, sound, reading newspapers, too much social media, all sorts of things are noise. At the beginning of this year, I realized that I was going into this downfall, downwards. And I realized, okay, I heard this voice inside of me that said, you have to reduce the noise. And so that's what I did. I reduced the noise for a month as I took myself off of social media and only would allow myself X amount of time on each platform per day. That's it. And even though there was like, the addiction, I've got to do it. But no, you need to get rid of that addiction. So that's noise for you. And then the noise in your head, start walking, start doing exercise in nature, listening to the noise which is in nature, which is pure, which is part of you. These are old, different nomadic ways or traditional ways that we would live. And those help us to re-energize. We think that we have gone to the place in our socialization, in our intellectualization of life, that we know everything. But what is that doing to us a lot of the time is that maybe we don't know what is actually nature within us. So reducing the noise external and internally, is extremely important. Take a break. Take a social media break. Cut it up. The other thing is that don't have all of it in your bedroom when you're sleeping, because you will be enticed to go onto it. You'll be enticed, and then you stop sleeping as well. Leave your phone outside your room. I know people say, no, I gotta have my way. No, put it outside of your room, and don't let it be the first thing you check. When you wake up in the morning, take a moment for yourself to reflect, to be wide instead of narrow, and then start to look at the day. But you need to have these little micro steps of ways that you can help your mental health. But I would say it's a holistic health, because you're helping your spirit, you're helping your socialization, your emotions, your physical. All of these things come together. The problem is we talk about mental health, and it's the dictator. But our body can shift that mental health. I don't know about you, Chandra, but for me, because I'm extremely kinesthetic and physical, is that when I start to get all sort of mushed up in my head, or too many things are starting to go around in my head, I need to release that. And one of the ways that I release is physicality, is that I go walking, or I go into nature, or I go swimming, or I do dance, or whatever I do. But it releases everything. It's also very creative. When I was doing choreography, for example, one thing that would help me is I would get stuck. And this also affects your mental health, is getting stuck into a rut, or stuck on an idea, or a contemplation of what is this project? I don't know the next step in this project. I don't know what this creative aspect, what do I need to add to the creativity of this for it to be successful or to be beautiful, whatever it may be. And I used to say, okay, go swimming. So I would go swimming, and I had one task. I can't get out of the pool until I've solved the question. So I would keep swimming and swimming and swimming until I found the answer. And the answer would come to me. I didn't sort of go on and on and on about the answer. I would just let the swimming allow me to find the answer, because it loosened everything up. So many people find their own ways of loosening their mind, loosening their body, whatever it might be. But it is a holisticness of this. So for youth, we need to be able to help them to start moving and expanding their thinking. Now, you remember we've talked about the nomadic culture and the nomadic mindset. One of the greatest, I believe, quotes that I found in all of my research was this in Mongolia, is a young student said to me, nomads think vastly, act narrowly. I'm going to say it again. Nomads think vastly, act narrowly. Now, whenever I talk about this in any speech, people go, that's the one that I pick up. Why? It's not like think global or act local. That's not like that at all. It is about vastness. Thinking vastly is opening the mind, opening the body, opening. And this is what we do in coaching. We go get curious and we start to open, because people come to us in a narrow state. And this is what's happening when we have these mental challenges, is that we're in this narrow state. Yesterday, for example, I have a client that is really challenged at the moment, from work, from relationships, from her children, from her mother, it's like everything is like coming at the same time. And I can sense she's in the beginnings of some sort of burnout, which is not a good place to be. And because her mind and everything is so narrow, it's so tight. And we need to be able to find these different mechanisms which will help us to open and to understand it's this width. Go wide, go wide, go wide, and then narrow in on a solution. That, I think, is what is happening for a lot of us in is one of the things that is challenged, if you take it deeper for mental wellness, is that the youth of today are seeing the challenges of no jobs. But now we need to widen that up and go, well, what other ways can you move forward? You don't have to do everything that is like a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant. There are other things to be able to do in life. But because our culture has closed us, we don't see that width of possibility. And our education is sometimes doing that. So the width, our bandwidth, as we call it sometimes, is very narrow. We need to go wide on the bandwidth, right? You know, remember on radios, we need to have a wide band, you know, that you're playing. You need to have the technology to be able to have a really wide band. And that's exactly the same thing for us as individuals, is we need this width. So the width can come through some of the things that I've already talked about. But most of all, one of the things that's actually really important, I think, for a lot, and especially if people are listening from India or wherever, they've grown up from the fact of meditation and stillness and this idea. And meditation is really a place to widen. So meditation, take a break from your social media. Don't believe everything that's on social media. Don't engage in everything that's in social media. Engage in only what is important to you. Sleep, 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 sleep. Physical exercise is extremely important, but also to just really understand, to put a context into things that for the youth, for example, not only about where is their future, but what is the planet, is to get them engaged in understanding what's going on so that they become social activists for their own future. There's way too many people that are turning a blind eye and very short-term thinking about the planet, biodiversity, the decline of the planet. And we need to really understand that. And we need to do something about it. Because it's not just one person. We need to hold our governments responsible. We need to hold organizations responsible. And we need to hold ourselves and our families responsible. And our friends and our circles. Why? Because this will help our mental well-being to be able to cope and then thrive into the future. Why? Because we've gone wide and have a bigger picture of all the risks, the threats, and seeing them from a distance. We can see the opportunities, the possibilities. When you're narrow, it's very hard to see them. Would you say so, Chandra?
Well, Kevin, I think you told us many, many important things. And one thing I'd like to share with you is that I know for sure that the 8 hours of sleep is definitely required because brain has to do cleaning functions. That is where I read somewhere that it does the cleaning function where it actually stores unwanted things into a hard disk somewhere deep down, so you don't need it for tomorrow, and keep remaining things in your RAM, random access memory. So it needs time to declutter your mind, and that is why sleep is required. But we know that. But I think all of us, including myself, I don't think I can sleep for more than 5.5 hours to 6 hours. Whatever I do, I cannot sleep. And whenever I get up, there is pressure on my head. The pressure is, oh, I got some 300 emails, as you rightly pointed out, and I need to start responding now, because if I do it now, I will have more time for my breakfast. So, that is where the day starts. You have not left the bed and you're answering your email. I think this is happening to almost everybody, whether they're young people or even middle-aged person like me and even elders. So it's a common phenomena. But the youths are, more affected because they've just started their life and they're getting into a rut. So I think what I am asking you is basically give us a very small solution. You already told us that, hey, keep the mobile outside your bedroom. It's easier said than done, actually. It's an addiction. So I think what you can tell us is, some sort of activity-based regime which youth can follow, and change their lifestyle. Is it possible to do it in this program, or you would like to consult some of these people on one-on-one? How does it work basically, if this is something that people need today?
Well, I think that it's a longer subject than what we have today, but I think that the people are able to consult with me if they wish to at some point in time, and to reach out. I'm very helpful. I'm grateful for that. But one thing that you can do, as I say, is that these are creating habits, and we need to create a habit which is the one that you wish to be beneficial. They call this, there's a phenomena called habit stacking. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of different types of stacking, Kevin. For example, things like hashtag stacking. When you're posting something, hashtag is also can be stacked in your post, which is counterproductive. So things like that. So I presume habit stacking is also similar to that.
Habit stacking is where you have a habit which is that you like and it works well for you, and your new habit that you do it at the same time, which is very not familiar for you, and what the habit that is successful for you will help to motivate the other habit, because it's not alone. It is actually doing it. So for example, in habit stacking, you might be very good at meditation, and it's a ritual for you. And so that you do that, but at the same time as you're doing the meditation, is that you're recognizing in your mind that you need peace. For example, that may not be something that is there for you, but you have a challenge with peace in your life once you come out of meditation, but it's to put the two together, is to understand the two. One is easy and the other one is a bit more challenging, and to see how that peace can help to take you forward. I mean, it's very simple in the sense of another way of habit stacking you can see is very simple, is that you wash your teeth, brush your teeth, right? And so that is okay. But then the affirmations, for example, are not so easy for you because you don't remember them. But you do an affirmation every time that you are brushing your teeth. So then it becomes a habit. So we have to create these habits. For example, as you talked about, is putting your phone out of your room. So one thing is I like to sleep. So that's a habit, it's a ritual, and it's also a necessity for you in life. And you allow yourself to have the habit of sleeping, but you say to my sleeping, I'm going to put my phone outside. And then you come in and you sleep. So you allow it to be there, but you say, I'm going to take it outside of the room. But you're focusing on the sleep. And that's the most important thing, and not on the social media, which is keeping you awake.
Well,
those are good tips.
One question I have, Kevin, is which is related to youth specifically. And it's about giving them direction. Because I think what is missing is, all these things are fine. You leave your mobile outside. It's their habit. We need to tell them, hey, don't be habituated to certain way of life. However, I think all this will be driven if there is a goal assigned to them. So is there an easy method to assign a goal? For example, if there is somebody has to achieve something like score a distinction in mathematics, or score marks in social studies, So is there a possibility of assigning a goal which can give them direction? Is there a method to this madness, Kevin?
There's no real concrete method to any of that madness around goals, I believe. Anyway, some people will be, swear up and down. So I believe a goal is an idea, a place forward, it's a direction. However, the journey towards it is the most important thing, is what are you learning as you get there? So if your goal is to write an exam, it's not to put the focus on the exam and the goal and getting the marks, But the goal is to reverse that and look at what is the journey, what am I learning, what is in that I can utilize, and then think about the exam when it happens. But if you put the focus on the wrong syllable, as I say it, the wrong syllable being only the marks, then you're going to be pretty stressed and you may not remember everything. So the point here is, yes, it's good to have a goal. Yes, it's good to have a direction, but make sure that you put the focus on the learning journey. And that learning journey, you need to go wide, as I said before you go narrow. Thinking about the goal is quite narrow because it cuts you off from all other types of learning, experiences, possibilities, because you're just seeing the end. In your example, I think you started to talk about youth, and I think it's really family it starts with. And family and sharing the values and sharing what is important. Some families don't really give a care about the amount of technology that their children have or how many hours they're on at a time until something happens. However, there's so much documentation. I know an Indian family here, their children were 13 and they still didn't have a phone. She says, I'm not letting them have a phone yet. They're fine. They're learning all sorts of other things. They can go on their computer, but not have a phone. So these types of things is about not allowing yourself to get wrapped up in the social consciousness of every child has a phone, every child has the latest gadget, every child has No, it's not living up to the Joneses. It's about what is important that you feel moving forward for the child and their learning journey. Sure, that might be part of their learning journey, but the point here is the values and the purpose that you are giving to them, educating them about the bigger picture of life, what is happening in not only in technology and jobs and whichever, but what is happening as far as the climate and getting interested. This is important, I believe, to helping them move forward, is the home and the social interaction, not necessarily on social media.
Well, I think this is a very big subject, very vast subject. We can't finish in 20 to 30 minutes. It requires a lot of in-depth analysis, and every individual is different. His needs are different. His mind works differently. So there is no cookie cutter solution available. But the fact of the matter is, Kevin has come forward being such an experienced person. He's actually, he can help you train your mind in order to get focused, in order to sleep well, in order to get decluttered with your habits, and so many other things. It's a huge subject, Kevin. Thank you so much for finding time and joining us, Kevin.
It's my great honor to be here with you, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Great, Kevin, it was lovely talking to you, and we will catch up in the next show. Until then, I'd like to say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Friends, as we all know that Russia has signed an agreement with India about supply of air defense system known as S-400. This system is so advanced, it can actually track drones, aircraft, ballistic missiles, fighter aircraft, rockets, and intercept them in midair. And the range of this S-400 air protection system is about 380 kilometers. So you can not only detect using the radar, very advanced radar is fitted into this system, but you can also eliminate the threat which is entering India. Well, our arch rival in the region, which is China, which has become lately, they have already deployed 2 two battalions, two batteries of the same system which they got from Russia. India has got it, and even though United States have threatened to put sanctions on India, India has acquired this state-of-the-art, and some says that this is the best mechanism, best missile system to protect your borders. The deployment has started today, and by January next year, some of these batteries will be operational. And as you know that India has two very vital borders, which is facing China as well as facing Pakistan. So we have in case of a battle, there is a situation which will become like a two-front war, and that is why acquisition of this protection system was very, very important for India. And to understand this more holistically, this missile system has a very advanced radar which can also map the incoming aircraft or incoming missile systems radar. So this is one of the reasons that it is this system is so effective. It can actually track, even though your aircraft is a stealth aircraft like F-35 of United States, it can still monitor that aircraft even though it is not visible on the radar, but S-400 radar can detect it and eliminate it. And this is the reason that US is very unhappy, and they have already put sanctions against China and also against Turkey. Well, Turkey has not got S-400, but Turkey got eliminated from F-35 program, even though Turkey is one of the biggest ally of NATO, but they got eliminated from F-35 because of this thing that the enemy can track the F-35 radar systems, and S-400 will become operational. So China is already sanctioned, but India is very hopeful that they will not attract sanctions from the Biden administration, simply because of the two-front war and the geopolitical situation of India. India need to protect its border and its territory and also its people. So that is why S-400 is very, very vital for national security. The deployment is going to start from now, and the whole system will be operational. Once this is in operation, it will be able to eliminate targets starting from 120 kilometers to 150, 250, and finally 380. So there are multiple grading system which the protection system umbrella, as we call it, is uses. Depending on how fast the target is, it can find out various elimination points and fire the adequate rockets. Interesting thing is this system can also protect Indian borders from the threat of intermediary supersonic ballistic missiles, which which usually fly 4 to 5 times the speed of sound. So this missile system can identify those threats also and eliminate. So I think this is a major acquisition for India. The deployment has started as of today, will be operational by January, February next year. And China has already deployed 2 batteries of the system to prevent Indian aircraft entering their borders. So we need to do the same thing in order to maintain the balance. So friends, do write in your comments about this major development in our country, in our region, and I will respond to each one of you. And I'll catch you in the next one. Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live, and I'm Chandrakant. In today legal matter, we are actually going to discuss about the history of High Court and what is its jurisdiction. So, many people keep hearing about these news that High Court has given this order and Supreme Court has given this order, but seldom people know about the difference between High Court and Supreme Court. To discuss this matter, I will be joined by my friend from Ahmedabad, Mr. Jeet Bhatt, and he will tell us the differences between High Court, Supreme Court, and also the brief history of the High Court. So, without further ado, let's welcome Jeet.
Hello, Chandrakant. Hi, thank you for having me on Legal Matters. And yes, today we are going to discuss about this important topic of how the high courts came into existence in India and what are its jurisdictions. So, a brief history before I start on the jurisdiction on how the high courts came to be established is obviously, as everybody must be aware, it is a colonial setup and came to be introduced when the Britishers were here. And the first three chartered high courts in the country were Calcutta, Madras, and Bombay. And people in Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras must be knowing that these high courts are almost 150 years, almost 150 years old. But there's a brief history before the high courts came to be set up on how Bombay, which in the early 17th century was part of the Goan colony, and the Goan colony gifted the island of Bombay to the Britishers on the marriage of King Charles II with the Catherine of Braganza. So it is because of this marriage between the King of England and the Princess of Portugal that the island of Bombay came to be gifted to the British crown in the year 1661. It is after that by way of a charter in 1969 that King Charles transferred the island of Bombay to the East India Company, because by that time East India Company had already established its business in India. So the administration of justice in the island of Bombay was started by the East India Company under the authority of the Crown of England. In 1694, at the similar time, the East India Company also became the Zamindar in Bengal due to the purchase of villages with the consent of Nawab of Bengal. And the East India Company also established a settlement in Madras by that time. So by 1694, they had already occupied the territories of Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. And therefore, they established the courts of records in the year 1694 itself. By 1694, since the East India Company was already administrating justice in these regions, they established courts of records by 1726, and which were later on known as the Supreme Courts of Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. So earlier, it were known as the Supreme Courts and not the High Courts. But later on, with the advent of 19th century, when the British Crown took over the entire territories in India and established the colony, the Government of India Act came to be passed by the British Parliament in the year 1858. And this, by way of this Government of India Act, the Indian High Courts Act came to be established, passed by the British Parliament, which authorized the creation of high courts in several presidencies and instead of the Supreme Court. So therefore, in 1862, the first high court in India came to be set up in Calcutta, known as the High Court of Calcutta, and that is the first high court in the country. Then 1865, the High Court of Bombay and Madras were set up. So they are more than almost 145 to 150-year-old high court, the oldest high courts in the country. And later on, the British Empire established the entire legal system in India based on their own system. So at that time, high courts were having the writ jurisdictions, and which writs were being issued by the kings in the olden times in the British Empire. And later on, when the high courts were established, those rights were given to the judges in the high courts as well. So basically, High Court judges exercise the powers that the king has of issuance of writs. And even today, under the Indian Constitution, we have adopted a similar setup in the sense that the high courts are having the jurisdiction and the power to issue writs for the enforcement of the rights of the citizens. And there are basically five writs which are issued. And the jurisdiction of the High Court is given under Article 226 of the Constitution. And the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court for issuance of writs is under Article 32 of the Constitution of India. Both these articles are extremely important because if any fundamental or constitutional right of any citizen is abridged by the state or the state machinery or its instrumentality or its agencies, then the persons aggrieved, the citizens, do have a right to approach the High Court as well as the Supreme Court for enforcement of their rights under the Constitution. And this is a very important piece of provision, empowering the high courts for in issuance of writs for the enforcement of the rights of the citizens. Now, you and your viewers would obviously be aware that the Constitution for the first time gave the fundamental rights to the citizens of this country, which this country never had before. And by the fundamental rights that we have under the Constitution, the right of equality, the right not to be discriminated, the right to be treated equally, the right to trade and profession, right to carry on business activities, the right to travel to any part of India, to right to reside in any part of India, the right to life with dignity, etc. So right against protection against arrest, etc. There are several fundamental rights from Article 13 onwards. And the enforcement of these fundamental rights, the most important provision is Article 32, which directly gives the Supreme Court the power to enforce these rights. Though in the earlier days, there are judgments when the Supreme Court was set up in 1950, where the Supreme Court says that we will watch the actions of the government because we are the custodians of the fundamental right. We will protect these rights come what may. And these were the words of the Supreme Court initially, but then later on with so much of litigation, so much of cases pending, now the Supreme Court is of the opinion that the high courts also have a similar power of issuance of writs, which we also have. Rather, high courts have a wider power in the sense that high courts can be approached for the enforcement of any of the constitutional rights. So if there's violation of any of the provisions of the Constitution, the high court of that state will have the power for issuance of writs for the enforcement of rights, whereas the Supreme Court will have the right for enforcement of only fundamental rights. So this is the basic difference between the powers of High Court and Supreme Court, where High Court's power is much wider than Supreme Court in terms of enforcement of rights under the Constitution. Obviously, the Supreme Court being the last authority, the final arbiter of disputes, it will have a word of finality, and obviously its powers are not limited. It can exercise any power, and on the contrary, it can even mold the law in order to give relief if it thinks that it meets the ends of justice. But if you read the Constitution, Article 226 provides for a much wider power to the high courts than Article 32, which provides same power to the Supreme Court. So that is the setup which has been followed from the earlier colonial system to the present constitutional system under our Constitution. But next, I would like to talk about the 5 writs that can be issued by the high courts and the Supreme Court. And those 5 writs which can be issued are the writs of habeas corpus, the writs of mandamus, the writ of prohibition, the writ of quo warranto, and writ of certiorari. So these 5 writs can be issued. Now I'll just speak briefly on what these 5 writs are. It's a very wide topic, and every writ can cover at least an hour or so if it wants to be discussed in detail. But a habeas corpus writ is again and these 5 writs are again very old established writ powers which the kings in the British times had. So writ of habeas corpus is for the production of the body. So habeas corpus literally is a Latin word, which means have the body. So if any person has been illegally detained by any authority, which does not have the power to detain him and his custody is illegal, then the aggrieved person or a family member of the person who has been captured illegally can approach the High Court for issuance of a writ of habeas corpus. And if the High Court issues the writ of habeas corpus on finding that the person has been illegally detained, then the authority, the state machinery, will have to find that person from any part of the country and will have to produce it before the court in order to find out whether the person has been illegally detained or not. So that is the power of writ of habeas corpus. It's a very important writ, and a lot of lives have been saved by issuance of this writ of habeas corpus by different high courts as well as the Supreme Court. So basically, it pertains to right to life and live with dignity and without any restrictions. So if any person has been illegally detained, his family can approach the High Court for issuance of a writ of habeas corpus. The second writ is a writ of mandamus. Uh, yes, a writ of mandamus, which is basically a command. So the High Court has the power to command the state in order to ensure that if the state has a duty which is not fulfilling, then the High Court can issue a writ of mandamus directing it by way of a command to comply with its duty. And also if it is in violation of any rights of any citizen, so the High Court can issue a writ of mandamus against the state. Now, kindly also bear in mind that these writs can be issued against the state, its authority, and its instrumentality, but not against private persons and private entities. So for that disputes, there are civil courts. But with respect to disputes which are in the realm of public law, then high courts have the jurisdiction under Article 226. The third writ is the writ of prohibition, which is preventing a state or its instrumentality from acting or undertaking or doing something which is not in consonance with the Constitution or with the laws. The fourth writ is the writ of quo This writ of quo is basically control over the appointments on public posts of ineligible persons which are not having the requisite qualification as prescribed under the rules. So, for example, if a vice chancellor of any university or if any person holding any public post under the state, he does not have the eligibility to hold that post and has been appointed still by the state, then the High Court can issue a writ of quo warranto that your appointment is illegal. So this is the writ of quo warranto, which the High Courts have control over public posts and the appointments which are made by the state government. And the fifth is the writ of certiorari, where the High Court has the power of supervision over the lower courts and tribunals under the state. So if any order passed by the tribunals or any of the trial courts, then the High Court has power of supervision and it can correct those powers if they have been passed without jurisdiction or there is manifest error in those orders. So basically, dividing the powers of the High Court, they can be prescribed as either original or appellate. So under original powers of the High Court, there are these writ jurisdiction like writ of habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, quo warranto. Whereas the writ of certiorari is basically sometimes an appellate jurisdiction which the High Court is exercising, where the orders of the trial court, different tribunals are challenged before the High Court. And the High Court, by way of its supervisory power, is exercising control over these tribunals. So basically, this is how the powers of and jurisdiction of the courts are distributed by way of these 5 writs, and it has vast powers to do complete justice towards the citizens of this country. Also, this power has been expanded by high courts and Supreme Courts by entertaining public interest litigations, where a lot of vigilant individuals file these public interest litigations for larger issues with regards to health, water, sanitation, laborers, etc. A lot of public interest litigations for human rights, etc., have been filed, and the high courts have exercised its jurisdiction and issued landmark judgments on the protection of a lot of areas regarding this public interest litigation. So yes, so this is how the jurisdiction of the high courts, the powers are being exercised.
This is great, Dean. In fact, a lot of people don't know about high courts and Supreme Court, what kind of job they do, what type of cases they have. So I think it's a very important description that you have given for the viewers. And by the way, viewers, we are live. If you have any question, you can shoot it out. We will display your question straight away on the screen and get it answered. So Jeet, I have one question, and I think a lot of people may be aware the differences, but I think there are not too many in India. So if you can tell the viewers when they can approach High Court, although you have explained technically into 5 types of writs, but can you explain in a layman's language what is the right timing for individual to approach High Court? Otherwise, they will have to stick around in the lower court. So I think you can take it up from there.
Yes, certainly, Chandrakant. So basically, there are two types of disputes. One is private, and the other is a public dispute having a public law element. If it's a private dispute between two private entities where the state is not involved, then the jurisdiction would lie before the civil courts, trial courts, or special tribunals which have been enacted. Like, say, for example, if it's between a bank and a borrower, then there are separate tribunals like the Debt Recovery Tribunal, which has been specially enacted. Otherwise, if it's a MSME, then there's a MSME council which adjudicates disputes on payment, etc. Also, with regards to insolvency, bankruptcy, there is NCLT, there is the National Company Law Tribunal, and other private disputes with regards to land, etc. There are civil courts. Also, there are special secretary revenue and revenue tribunals, etc. But depending on the nature of disputes, the area of jurisdiction of which court can be decided. But with regards to High Court and its power, if the state or its instrumentality acts in a manner which violates any of the fundamental or any constitutional right. So say, for example, if the state machinery is encroaching upon a private land of a private individual, though there is a civil dispute, but that violation would also be a violation of a constitutional right, in the sense that right to property is still recognized as a constitutional right under Article 300A. So that person can approach the High Court for enforcement of his constitutional right. Similarly, as I said, if the police machinery has taken over your family member and illegally detained him without any charge or without any FIR, then of course you can take the remedy of habeas corpus and file a writ before the High Court, and the High Court can call upon the state machinery, its police, to produce the corpus and ask him ask why he has been detained. Also, a lot of times what happens is that even private individuals kidnap small kids, and the parents of the kids can also approach the High Court seeking the writ of habeas corpus if the police is not undertaking the search as it should in a vigilant manner. So then they can also approach the High Court, and they have approached in many cases past, where High Courts have issued the writ of habeas corpus for producing the body. Similarly, writ of mandamus can be issued for a variety of reasons, where the state machinery, say for example, in any recruitment for the public post, has violated any of the rules, or even in service, in terms of service conditions, they have not complied, or in promotion, or any other aspect where the state and its instrumentality has to act in a manner prescribed under the rules, and there is a violation of those rules which has resulted into some harm to the employees, then the employees can also prefer a petition before the High Court. And similarly, certiorari, as I said, is an appellate power, supervisory power, where if any order which has been passed by the trial court or by any tribunal which is not in consonance with law, then that can be approached before the High Court for adjudication. So these are the manners in which the persons can approach before the High Court. Also, if there's a remedy, say for example, if a police has registered an FIR on an absolutely false and frivolous allegations leveled by the informant, and if it's an abuse of the process of law, then the High Court, under exercise of its writ jurisdiction, read with the Code of Criminal Procedure, can quash the FIR against the accused person if the accused person approaches the High Court. So there are a lot of ways in which you can approach the High Court depending on what right has been violated.
Thank you so much, Jeet, and in fact for explaining this. But I have one last question, which is about the subtle differences between the powers of Supreme Court and High Court. And is there a High Court in every state, or there are certain states which do not have high court and they have to approach Supreme Court. So what is the difference, and how many high courts we have in India?
Yes, Chandrakant, mostly every state has a high court, except 2 or 3 states which share their high courts. It's not that they don't have a high court. In now in the Seven Sisters, that is Northeast, probably a couple of states share one high court. Also, Punjab and Haryana, though there are 2 separate states, but Chandigarh being the union territory, shares a common high court of Punjab and Haryana. So 2 states having one high court. Also, there are some other states where 2 or 3 states are sharing one high court, but there are only 2 or 3 such states which are sharing. Otherwise, every state has a high court. And union territories also, they don't have a high court, but their jurisdiction lies before the high court. So, say for example, like Daman and Diu, their jurisdiction is with Bombay High Court. And Goa, though now it's a state, so they have a bench of Maharashtra High Court in Goa. So therefore, they also now have a bench which sits there. So difference between High Court and Supreme Court, I would say, is basically the power under Article 226 and 32, though are same for issuance of writ. But the power of High Court is much wide in the sense that the High Court can be approached for adjudication of a dispute which is in terms of violation of any of the constitutional right, whereas the Supreme Court can be approached only in terms of violation of fundamental rights. So the power of Supreme Court in that sense is little restricted. Not it is restricted in any other sense in terms of granting relief, but only in terms of violation of what provision which decides of what jurisdiction the Supreme Court has. Also, a difference is that against the orders of the High Court, the appeal can be preferred before the Supreme Court. So therefore, Supreme Court in that way is the last forum for adjudication in our hierarchical system. Otherwise, powers of writs are same.
Well, Jeet, it was a pleasure talking to you and learning so many things about our judicial system today. Thank you so much for coming over to our show and talking to our viewers, explaining this. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Chandrakant, for having me. It's my pleasure and honor to be on this legal matters. Thank you.